This is the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Village of Vernon Hills. We need to start with a roll call.
Chairman Morris.
Here.
Mr. Ballou.
Present.
Ms. Cotton. Mr. Hesner. Mr. Heidner.
Here.
Mr. Mulcrone. Mr. Gorog.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, this evening we have no public hearings, but we do have a development review, which is a concept presentation for the Oaks of Vernon Hills by P&Z Real Estate Group. We have really very few rules other than if you speak, you need to speak from one of the microphones, either the permanent one or the handheld, which is there. Okay, so you are on.
Good evening. My name is Warren James. I'm with the P&Z Real Estate Group, and I appreciate having this opportunity to address you tonight to present the concept plan for the Oaks of Vernon Hills. With me tonight, starting on the left, Scott Freres, the principal of the Lakota Group, our land planner and landscape architect. My business partner, Steve Spinell, partner Matt Nix, and Mike Rolfs, representing the property owner, the Oaks of Vernon Hills LLC.
Okay, before you start, for a record, Commissioner Jeff Mulcrone is not here this evening because he's recused himself from any participation since his firm is involved in certain aspects of this development. Okay? Okay, now with that, you're on.
Thank you. Again, happy to be here. P&Z Real Estate Group, myself, Steve, Matt, we've been working together for many years. Steve and I go back for 24 years, as a matter of fact, working together in the residential development business. We've had the good fortune of working on quite a wide variety of residential projects. I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a moment. We're also going to touch on the market and the land use. Matt's going to address that. Scott Freres will be presenting the site plan and the landscaping, and then I will return to discuss the architecture and the requested variances. And finally, Steve is going to address the community benefits. As I mentioned, I've been in the development business personally for about 25 years now and had the good fortune to work on a number of projects in and around the Chicago area, in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Included among those are South Commons in Deerfield, Uptown and Park Ridge, which was a mixed-use development recently completed, Heatherfield and Glenview, just to name a few. More locally, Waterbury Place, which is on Half Day Road in Buffalo Grove. We're just completing that now. And most of the product that we've worked on, I personally worked on, is in the for sale market. Recognizing the transition, Matt will address the land use and why we are proposing a multifamily project for this site in a moment. We are bringing to bear the experiences that we've learned over the past 20 plus years. Working together, we as a group have worked together on a variety of projects, most of these projects, in fact, using the Lakota Group for landscape architecture. And in fact, Matt Nix will be presenting the market background and the land use. Matt and I met while he was working with Opus. We had the pleasure of working together at Port Clinton Place, where I was engaged as a consultant and contractor. We actually constructed the row homes and the interiors of the condominium units that were developed by Opus when Matt was back with Opus. Since the turn of the market, Matt's joined the P&Z Real Estate Group, and now he's part of our team. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Matt to address the market.
Thanks, Warren. As Warren said, I'm Matt Nix. I think, as most of you are aware, there's been a fundamental change in attitudes towards rental and for sale housing. As we focus on this market, it's particularly apparent in our target, a couple of our target groups, the 24 to 34-year-old demographic. Once upon a time, those were our customers purchasing perhaps for the first time a townhome or a condominium. They were very interested in quality design, quality construction, well-located projects. Because for a variety of reasons, they have their opinions towards purchasing homes have shifted. However, they still are a very demanding group of individuals. They're seeking well-located projects, high-quality, new construction, highly amenitized, lifestyle-oriented housing. And that's really what we're proposing, and we'll offer more details tonight. So it's simply a matter of postponing the decision to purchase, and they're finding it difficult to find housing that accommodates their lifestyle needs. The second group that we focus on is the empty nester market. Again, once upon a time, the empty nesters were downsizing. They were selling their single-family homes and looking to purchase multifamily homes, perhaps relocate to other areas. And again, primarily for flexibility and lifestyle reasons, these individuals, perhaps it took a while to sell their home, and they're really seeking flexibility, and high-quality luxury rental housing suits those needs. And Warren's going to talk a little bit more detail about a particular product that's unique to this development, which is a rental townhome product. So it's a great transition from a single-family home to the downsizer who still needs the space, wants a two-car garage. This is more of a vertical living format, which again, once upon a time, empty nesters were deterred a little bit from townhomes because of the concern about climbing stairs, which you can understand their concerns if they were purchasing this and they were looking ahead 10, 15 years. But ideally, the rental product allows for that flexibility, and it really meets their needs. Another group that we focus on is the corporate user. We've got lots of clients. Our marketing department works closely with the HR departments for the corporations in the area that are looking for housing options for relocated employees, particularly the pharmaceutical businesses. They often have employees coming in on 1 or 2 year contracts, engineers, scientists, in many cases coming from outside the country. And they're constantly in demand for high quality housing close to where the residents work. We see this as a fundamental component to the business community to help them attract and retain talent. And that's what we've heard when we've surveyed the market. What you see here is a land use, a map that shows a half-mile and a 1-mile ring around the site, and it helps to make the discussion about land use. The areas in yellow indicate residential housing. Our site is located in the middle. And the stars are really points of interest, particularly for the residential population. You see Stevenson High School, Vernon Hills Public Library, the Town Center, Lifetime Fitness, the fire station, the athletic fields to the north, in addition to the 2 metro stations, the Buffalo Grove and the Vernon Hills Metro Station. And when speaking to land use, you can really see not only is while our proposed development is adjacent to the corporate woods, you can see several existing residential communities that abut the corporate woods. But more importantly, you can see within a half-mile radius, which is considered comfortable walking distance, there are several points of interest specific to residential population. And within 1 mile, there's lots of offerings. And we talk about walking distance to obviously the retail, the town center, the schools, the library, Lifetime Fitness, obviously proximate to the employment in the corporate woods, but then an easy drive to the offices along Milwaukee and the 94 corridor. We also, you can see that with 2 train stations within a mile distance, while this isn't really a walk to train station location, it certainly is a bike to train station, and even more importantly, we see this as ideal for couples. Perhaps one works locally, one commutes downtown. It's a perfect kiss and ride opportunity. And that's really where, sort of on a macro level, proximity to transit is key when we try to identify this type of a location for this type of product. It also has great visibility off of Route 45, which is important for rental housing. And while it's got almost 1,000 feet of frontage along 45, The closest building off 45 is 200 feet, and with its former use as Kelly's Camp, you can understand that it's really quite a bucolic setting as you go deeper into the site. And that's further illustrated on this site aerial looking north. You can see immediately across Sanctuary and Riders Court subdivisions, and surrounding the site on three sides is the Corporate Woods Office Park. You can also see a very heavily wooded perimeter, which we would intend to keep, separating the lower scale commercial uses with our residential use. And Warren will talk about the architecture in a moment, but you can see how the scale and the density of what we're proposing fits in nicely with the adjacent commercial uses. Currently, the site's zoned for almost 315,000 square feet of commercial. We're asking for an R7 PUD for residential, and we think that this site illustrates that there's, the uses are quite compatible given the landscape or the wooded buffer. With that, I'm going to ask Scott Ferreras of the Lakota Group to walk you through more specifically the site and site planning and landscape.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Scott Ferris with the Lakota Group. Pleasure to be here this evening. And I should note first that while Matt and Warren suggested a change in the marketplace with regards to the product type and the approach to this project, the land plan and the character of the site and the approach and detail that we put into it reflects the quality and detail of any high-quality development, regardless of whether it's rental or for sale. In terms of the overall layout of the plan, it's built around a unique environment, tree-lined area, beautiful frontage, a wooded area that's a preserve that we intend to keep along the frontage of Route 45. Along the southern border of our site, the two access points align to the west. Our major primary access point on the site aligns with Riders Court. As Matt mentioned, the perimeter of the site is surrounded by the Corporate Woods, and the secondary access point that we're suggesting along the Route 45 corridor, which we'll talk about a little bit further in tonight's presentation, aligns with Sanctuary. The site is 31 acres in total size. The developed portion that you see as part of the site plan represents about 29 acres. There's an outlot, commercial outlot that is on the western frontage, represents about 2 acres of the site. On the site, there are 17 buildings. Of those 17 buildings, as you'll note, 8 of those are multi-story, 3-story apartment buildings, and 9 of those are what we call tuck-under row homes. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through the architecture. These are neo-traditional in terms of their scale. The orientation of the buildings are designed around pods or open space characters, open space zones. They are meant to address great views out of all of the facilities and to create special open space amenities as part of the overall character of the site. As I had alluded to earlier, there's a clubhouse with active amenities in the center of the site. The clubhouse represents about 6,000 square foot facility as shown on the drawing, as pool and other facilities, recreational and exercise facilities that are attuned with it, as well as it's set around a central open space or pond feature that's central to our overall area. As I'd mentioned on the south of the site, we have a 1.5 acre tree preservation area, and I'll talk a little bit about trees. There's 160 trees that are being preserved there. That's generally an oak savanna in terms of the character of it. We should note as we talk about the landscape character of the site, which I'll roll into as part of this discussion, that while we are removing trees as part of this program to develop the site, we're also adding about 600 trees back into the overall landscape program. So as we think about removal, we think about preservation, we're thinking about what we're replanting in terms of that reforestation program of the overall site. As I mentioned, the site's broken down into a number of pods, or we refer to them as neighborhoods, so we can break this down into smaller character zones, all interconnected by walkways throughout the entire area, so carefully planned that everybody is connected via pedestrian. You heard Matt and Warren talk a little bit about the interconnectedness of this site relative to the regional context along Route 45. We certainly recognize that a bike trail is an integral part to this plan, connecting the overall vision of 45, but then tying ourselves in the broader, I would call it the broader transit supportive role of connecting this to the village center area, to the town center, and to the train station, making sure this is interconnected to the high school and educational system in the nearby areas. The northwest corner of the site, the pod is organized around a small central green area. These are our tuck-under row home product. Again, it's a 3-story in terms of the scale of the product, a walk-up character to it, a garage or rear-loaded access point in terms of an alley structure. You can call it an alley. We call it a rear-loaded service area, providing parking spaces to the unit, 2-car garage, parking space to the unit, parking spaces behind the unit on a surface pad, and then circulation for access around it. All these units have a front door address on a street, so that the idea is that there is a access point, there's a visual front door to all of these units. And you can see by the illustration that's shown there, that is the character of the row home front elevation, of which Warren will talk about in just a bit in terms of the architectural layout of those spaces. The northeast corner of our site is one of our major open space elements, again, all linked by central walkway features. I'll talk a little bit about the organizing elements that are a part of each of those areas. We wanted to separate recreational features as part of the overall site plan into different quadrants or different neighborhoods. These are the apartment buildings. These are 3-story buildings. Again, very similar in terms of the scale and the architecture to the row homes or the tuck-unders. So there's a theme. There's not one separation between different product types in terms of the overall character. They each have a garage access. You can see the garage and driveway access off of the service provided area. Parking provided at a ratio across the whole site. We'll talk about at 2.46 parking spaces per unit, so in excess of the requirements of the codes. The buildings themselves all orient onto open spaces. The 3 to the north are actually facing to the south into the central open space, and the 2 buildings, which would be on the southeast, are really looking into the pond or the open space center environment. In the center of that open space, you'll notice a kind of a brownish color in the center of that. That is our playground area. So we've located the playground into a central feature where it can be viewed and managed from the eyes and ears of the community. It's connected to the walkway system. It's far enough away from the unit so that it doesn't provide a noise transition. We're constantly thinking about putting things in the right places and not just putting it in there for the sake of accomplishing it. The central area, as I mentioned, is dominated by the rec center or the clubhouse facility, again providing a architectural character consistent with the flavor of the rest of the site, connected by walkways, providing proximate parking on all sides for users to get to it. We're hoping and we believe the walkway system is the goal, to get people to that as opposed to getting in their car and driving to it, but we recognize providing that parking is a necessary component. A number of features that provided there include pool, open space rec room or a party room in the center. It would be, and Warren can probably talk to us a little bit more in terms of their marketing facility for the development. And we also have an outside venue or an open patio area, perhaps a fire pit and overlook area that's on the pond system. And there's a little bit more detail showing you the character of that space and some of the general feel of the pool deck area and those open space areas. That pool deck area would be closed in or fenced in as part of a code and safety requirements. The south end is really a transitional area that includes both the apartment buildings, the 3-story apartment buildings, and then a separation a little bit further south to the tuck under row home products again. Those buildings that you see, the row home products, are 5 to 6 units in terms of the scale of those buildings attached to them. Again, the separation between the buildings gives plenty of light visibility to all of the open space areas, circulation and access, and parking provided at the appropriate, if not greater ratios. And you'll note, and this is my little clicker, you'll note that our secondary access that I talked about, we'll talk about this a little bit, comes down into a turnaround drive to break down traffic flow and speed in this area. This is our proposed secondary right-in, right-out access. We'll talk a little bit about our opportunity that we're working towards, that being a connection to the east if we can make that happen that would provide a secondary relief back to Forest Edge Drive through the business park. Let's see, there we go. And then also, as a feature, as we mentioned, coming into the site, our Oak Savannah, our open space element along Route 45, again, providing that nice setback, that open space. Within that space, two special features I'll talk about more in our landscape discussion, that being a council ring, which is shown up in the upper right-hand corner here, which is really a passive recreational area, kind of a stone seat wall area that people can sit and enjoy an open view of the entire Oak Savannah. And then also the idea of putting in a controlled dog run or dog park area. We believe that it's an important component to management of residents that are going to have dogs, to define that and make that part of a feature and not just an add-on at the end of the day. And again, showing you the number of trees, the number of acres of open space, and the pedestrian trail system that are part of that. We talked a little bit about our goal of trying to get our connection to the east, providing that secondary relief through the business park. This exhibit shows the extent of our efforts to date. And Warren will talk to us probably a little bit more later, we are working at trying to acquire that parcel or that access point. We're also looking at and develop some engineering that shows how it can be done, how it can be achieved, and also to some extent how we can show that there's development opportunities still left as part of that southern bisect of the access through that area. So suffice it to say, we're working towards that goal. We're making every effort to make that connection, but as part of our plan, we've defined our access points, and if this is achievable, we'd be able to clip off our secondary access and just provide a turnaround drive at our secondary control point. Landscape, just to give you a sense of character, and this was part of our submission to staff in terms of their review, to understand that the pictures that you see in the plan view are really represented by the illustrations or the photos that are off to the right. We have developed and have had great fortune working with Warren and Steve and Matt on projects in the past. We've done these, and while the end user is a rental user versus an owner in these properties, the quality and the care and the design is the same. In terms of the landscape character, these products that you see are very similar in terms of character of the tuck-under row homes. We're showing the foundation landscape treatment that would be very similar to what we'd be using. The quality of the plants, all natives based on your code and your requirements that are there, a variety of evergreens, deciduous trees, and also shrubs and perennials as part of that program. And while we note all this in terms of a character and a desired goal, we're very cognizant of making sure that it's maintainable and that it's achievable in terms of keeping the quality up as part of this. In terms of the species we've selected, we've been very careful about utilizing plants that will be successful as part of this development. Again, it's very similar character, probably not such a good photo in terms of what you can see. Maybe your picture is better than what I can see up in front of us. But the idea of the three-story apartment would also have that same foundation treatment. Again, reflecting back, that would be also planting almost 600 new trees on the site as an overall aggregate of shade trees and evergreen trees on the site. Stormwater detention, or our pond area, would be a naturalized pond edge. As illustrated in these plans, the pictures that you see off to the right are actually recently completed, about three-year growth at Waterbury, which is just south of here. So that's an example we can point to in terms of the character and the quality of what we would try to achieve. Again, low maintenance, but naturalized character fitting into this site setting. And the council ring that I mentioned on the south end, defining that passive space. The picture on the upper right shows a real simple stone seat wall, which is really just a place to reflect back on the open space, the character of the area, and not draw too much attention to it as a destination, but more of a place to find. And on the southern or the lower picture showing you more of an open dog run area, our intent is to fence in a portion of that southern open space area to be managed for dog users. With that, I will turn it back over to Warren for architecture.
Thank you, Scott. As noted earlier, the project architect is Bloodgood Sharp Buster. They're a national firm with a local presence. We've had the good fortune to work with BSB for at least the past 20 years in a variety of projects. We're very comfortable working with them, understanding the quality of their design and our ability to execute on their plans. In this case, we developed a specific product for this site with a 3-story elevator-served building shown here. On the first floor of this building, there are 10 individual garage stalls that will be rented independently of the units, so on a first-come, first-served basis. Each of those garage stalls has direct access to the common corridor. So somebody who rents the stall has the benefit of keeping their car indoors, going to the elevator, or walking down the hall to their unit. There are 8 units on the first floor. You'll see a pair of 1-bedroom units on the front corners, and the 4 1-bedroom units labeled Unit B on the rear, and 2 bedrooms on the rear corners, Unit E. As we move to the second and third floors, there are 12 units per floor there. Above the garages, we have the F units that are 1-bedroom den, and flanked by the smaller, or our smallest 1-bedroom unit, which is the A unit, which is just under 700 square feet. And then those are flanked by the D units on the corner, which are a smaller, a little bit under 1,100 square foot 2-bedroom. And again, the E's and the B's on the back side. The E is just over 1,200 square feet at 2 bedrooms, and the B is approximately 750 square feet in a 1-bedroom plan. You note that there are no 3 bedrooms. This is an elevator-served product, preponderance of 1 bedrooms, looking to serve that segment of the market. Typical unit plans are well designed. We've taken everything we've known through building hundreds, if not thousands, of condominium units and studying the current marketplace. We are going to request relief from the minimum unit size, which I believe under the ordinance is 1,200 square feet for a 1-bedroom. Current design, flat screen TVs, stackable washer and dryer, a lot of the features simply don't take up, functional uses don't take up as much space in the current floor plans. So we've designed the appropriate uses within each unit. We've just done so on a more space-efficient basis. Typical 2-bedroom D-unit plan on the corner of the building shows a split 2-bedroom, 2 baths. This is ideal for a roommate situation where you have some separation, or even perhaps a parent with with a child, or a couple that just wants a guest bedroom in a larger living space. Moving on to the row home, this is a product that we've a tremendous amount of experience in developing. It is rather ubiquitous in the for-sale market. It provides townhome-style living with parking at the grade level and living on the 2nd floor and bedrooms on the 3rd floor. We've proposed here 5 and 6 unit buildings in combinations, again trying to create some architectural interest. This is very analogous, as I said, to a for-sale product, but recognizing the change in the market, we're offering it as a rental product. I do want to, again, emphasize that this is going to be a purpose-built rental community. It's not our intent to sell these things as condominiums. It's our intent to maintain this as an overall professionally managed apartment building, or apartment complex. Again, to review the floor plan, the nature of the floor plans, the lower floor plan is a den or flexible use space off with 2-car garage. On the main living level, you enter a couple of steps to get up to the front stoop, then you walk up a half flight of stairs, and you're in the living and dining area, separate eat-in, kitchen, and breakfast, and then you go up the flight of stairs, and you have the master bedroom facing the front, and the secondary bedrooms 2 and 3 in the rear. These units are on the corner. There are 18 proposed 3-bedroom units, which represents about 6% of the overall proposal. The interior product type, the interior townhome or row homes all have 2 bedrooms, similar floor plans. The clubhouse is specifically designed for this community. We have tried to incorporate the best design features, also engaging the site. We've proposed the leasing facility in the southwest corner, provides the manager views of people entering and approaching. We've got the main gathering room here, with a nice view over the pool, looking out to the pond area. We have the fitness center on the north side of the building with views onto the pool and views out into the open space. And then we have more of the service area and the bathrooms and the equipment that service the pool area on the southeast corner. And finally, we have a media room and the public restroom facilities on the northwest corner. We are requesting several waivers. Those include setback or waiver from the required setback for roadways and parking. The PD suggests that that setback should be equal to the height of the product, or 35 feet in the case of the townhomes. In this instance, our roadway and parking setback is not less than 20 feet. There is only one structure we're seeking a waiver from that setback requirement. All of the townhome structures are at least 35 feet from the perimeter. All of the elevator-served apartment buildings are at least 45 feet from the perimeter. There is one trash enclosure in the northwest corner that is within that 35-foot buffer. It's a functional issue. We have alternative locations that maintain the setback, but from a functional use, and it's several hundred feet from the next nearest building, we're seeking relief from that. Also, in the northwest corner, we're seeking some relief from the separation between the row home buildings, from 35 feet to 21 feet. In that context, we are seeking relief because we wanted to provide for more parking behind the buildings. So we drew those buildings in closer together around that common green space, allowing for 2 cars behind every 2-car garage. So there's ample parking around those townhome units where we might expect to see 2 cars. We are, as I mentioned earlier, seeking relief from the minimum unit sizes, just under 700 square feet for a minimum 1-bedroom, and the 2-bedroom plans are a little bit over 1,000 for the minimum, 1,100 and a little bit over 1,200 square feet. All of the townhome product meets or exceeds the otherwise minimum space requirement. Finally, we are seeking relief from the, let me rephrase that, we are adhering to the IBC and the IRC building codes as specified within Vernon Hills ordinance. Vernon Hills has adopted a number of amendments to those ordinances, and we are seeking relief therefrom. Included in your detailed package were construction assemblies that include a unit-to-unit separation and a floor-to-floor, floor-to-ceiling separation. The separation assemblies that we are proposing to use are UL-approved assemblies. We are not seeking relief from the performance criteria. The floor-to-ceiling or floor-to-floor separation between units is a 2-hour rated assembly. The unit-to-unit assembly is a 2-hour rated assembly. All of these structures will be fully sprinkled. Those are the requirements in your code. The code also stipulates that those assemblies should be of non-combustible materials. We are proposing the use of modern construction techniques with frame construction, lots of drywall. In the case of the floor-to-ceiling, there are 3 layers of drywall between the ceiling and the floor joist, providing that 2-hour floor separation. On top of that open web floor truss is a level-crete product. It is a product that provides sound attenuation as well as additional fire separation characteristics. Again, that entire assembly is a UL-rated 2-hour fire separation. In the unit-to-unit assembly, that also is a 2-hour structurally rated assembly. There, we're using a cellulosic insulation that provides tremendous sound attenuation, as well as the benefits of enhancing the fire separation. That too, as I noted, is a 2-hour separation assembly. That, those in essence are the relief we're seeking from the building code. I'm going to turn to my partner, Steve Spinell, who is a resident of Vernon Hills, to speak to the benefits.
Good evening. Being a developer and a long-term resident of 20-plus years, I look forward to the opportunity to potentially be able to provide such a nice housing option within our community. What it does, from my perspective, is it gives us a strong balance of housing options within Vernon Hills. The use that we're proposing provides for 63% of the already approved commercial use traffic that would have been generated through that commercial use that's been approved already. There's $1.1 million in park donations that would come in handy within our community for other initiatives that we're seeking to do. And there's a bunch of disposable income that is available within our community as well. It doesn't touch on this slide, but we know that our town center is right up the street, and that's vibrant, and having 300 people or 300 families that are within walking distance to that is also something that is a great benefit to the community. And finally, the increase in the property taxes with limited impacts to our schools within the community. So with that said, we are here to take any type of questions and comments you may have.
Questions, anyone?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me clarify one thing. With regards to the structural variations that are requested, they can present that, and that information is in your packet. You're welcome to comment on that at the public hearing, but you will not be asked to act upon that. That is in the sole jurisdiction of the village board. So if you would like to provide comments when we go to public hearing in a few weeks, that's great, but you will not be asked to make a recommendation on it.
A question that I have is actually for you, John. Do we know the rental properties down the street by the town center? What occupancy do they have? I realize that we're not comparing apples to apples, but we're comparing rental property to rental property, and I'm just curious what their occupancy is.
Sure. If I could comment on that. As it so happens, really the two properties are the Opus building, which was originally, it was 66 condominium units, 6 were sold, and in the downturn they decided to rent the balance of the 60. We actually have, fortunately, one of our colleagues at Kinsey is responsible for the management of that property. When they did make the decision to start renting those units over the course of about 8 months, they rented all the units. Right now it's fully occupied.
Are we talking the high-rise apartment buildings or the row homes?
The row homes are all sold.
That's fine, okay, because
Right,
tall
the
buildings
mid-rise,
are what I was
exactly.
referring to, okay.
So 60 units are rented, and leases are turning, but then they're immediately filling them up. On average, they're getting about $2,000 or $2,100 a month for those units, which really speaks to the demand and what we refer to as the chunk price, that what people are really willing to pay for high quality housing. The project next door, the Commons, 85 units, again, also built really as condominiums, but made the decision to proceed and go straight to rental. They're in the high 90% occupancy and also commanding strong rents. I think one of the unique things about that is we look at the marketplace, because that totals about 140 units, and while they're all rented and they're all full, it's highly likely, especially in the Opus project, given that they're individually pinned units, that when the market turns around, those will be sold as condominiums, which means that there's this market that needs to be responded to.
There is one other purpose-built luxury rental in the market, and that's Amley at Museum Gardens. And Matt and I were in there probably within the past 4 to 6 weeks, 97% occupied.
Yeah,
or
and I
maybe
didn't
more.
I didn't mention that one
Yeah.
because the distance is
Right.
further away and probably not comparable. Another thing, when I look at this site, just as an observation, what is the name of the townhouse development that's across from Ernie's Shell?
Georgetown.
I mean, that's one that is surrounded by commercial property that exits onto a very busy road, and we haven't gotten to the road yet, and you know that'll be an issue.
Right.
And I realize these are rentals and not owned, and we've had those owners in front of us a few times with traffic challenges and everything else. I
Right.
mean, and that's what happens when you put a residential site in the middle of a commercial site to that effect. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also comment, though, that the reason those people are typically before the village board or you all is simply because they have one access point. And, you know, that is a problem,
Well-
getting in and out of there, unless you want to go right in, right out.
Well, and really, this will have one access point also. You'll have two. One will be right in, right out, which is you know, somewhat limited, and then you'll have the full access to be able to turn left. And obviously, traffic is going to be, I'm sure, something that will be an issue and talked about.
Right.
But those are just some questions, you know, that I had.
Do you want to talk back the back door?
Sure, I'd be happy to address that.
I have another question. I mean, I like the idea of it being within walking distance of everything. How are you going to walk there? Are we talking about future 45? Because you can't today.
Well, in our plan, there's a 10-foot path along 45, and that will complete the path along the north
Okay.
side of 45 down to
Okay.
the town center.
I was just, oh, all right. I mean, it's great. We like walking paths and biking paths and all that, but I was just wondering, you know, how you got there.
Let me go back to the slide that showed the potential eastern access. Let's start at the beginning, that a prior proposal for this site proposed 315,000 square feet of office use. The market has moved away. That type of use just simply is not economically viable at this point in time. That said, there were extensive plans prepared, and we adopted those specific plans. We've been to IDOT a couple of times already. We vetted this, and that includes the full access on Route 45 across from Ryder Court and the right-in, right-out opposite Sanctuary. So they line up with the existing roadway entrances of those two residential communities. The plans have already been vetted by IDOT. At the recommendation of the village, we explored a back door, the eastern access. We think it's a terrific idea. We're in negotiations with the adjacent landowner. You can see an aerial image here of a vacant office site. That site is 250 feet wide, 400 feet deep. It consists of, as you can see on the detailed map here, 5 separate parcels, each 50 feet wide. We would propose to construct a driveway access over the 50-foot northernmost with a 29, 30-foot back-to-back road. It's designed such that it aligns perfectly here and would provide a backdoor access, allowing a resident's convenient access to Lifetime Fitness, proximity to the fire station for emergency service. There's a lot of benefits, as well as the signalized intersection on Milwaukee Avenue.
Well, and that is,
That's obviously.
the back door is a good feature, and, you know, IDOT can say what they want. I drive that every day, every morning and every night. Doesn't matter what IDOT thinks. I'm sitting in that traffic, and we all know what that's
We
like.
get it. We've
Yeah.
done the complete traffic study, and that's been before the board. We recognize that in the evenings, the westbound traffic's brutal. Our residents coming home will be exiting. So that bottleneck typically is from Fairway, it's the tracks, and so our people, the people coming into our community, they're done, they're off. They're not really contributing to that bottleneck, if you will. Yeah, they're on the road, but they're exiting. In the morning, heading eastbound, it's our residents that would be mostly impacted. Adding to that traffic westbound, our expectation is if we can't get the eastern access, I'll make a right, I'll make another right on
No.
Woodland and go through.
Truthfully, in the morning, when you get to that spot, the traffic is pretty open. It's backed up until you get past Fairway.
Yeah,
And
Fairway's
once
the
you go,
bottleneck.
they won't have any problem getting out left in the morning. I mean, there will be gaps,
Yeah.
I believe, because I see it in the morning, so.
Yeah. So we recognize that, there are traffic issues on 45. There are regional issues. We know that IDOT's addressing it. We're trying, they're through their phase 1. When they'll get the phase 2 and when they'll get the funding is anybody's guess, but I think everybody would be in favor of 45 being improved.
Sometime in our life.
Yeah.
The access you discussed to Forest Edge, or the potential access there, what's on that lot right now? Is it just a parking lot, or is
Nothing.
it empty?
It's vacant land.
And the same thing for the lots on either side of it?
To the north is an office building that's been there for, I don't know, plus or minus 20 years. It's presently vacant. I'm not sure if it's offered for sale or for lease. There's a sign out in front of it. And to the south is an occupied office building. And Forest Edge is a public road.
Okay, I didn't get that the drawing above was the same.
Yes,
as
I
you
tried
have
to line up, so you see the aerial, and see the vacant land here, the wooded vacant lot, that corresponds, here's Forest Edge. The heavier shaded line is the
And who owns that lot right now?
an individual.
Not either of those properties to the north or south?
No, it was purchased many years ago with the intent to build a building. That project never proceeded, and that individual has continued to own that property, presumably as a long-term investment.
Does this divide lots that he owns?
That individual owns 5 separate lots. That's the way that was originally platted, so that a buyer, when the office park was developed, could buy whatever they wanted to in 50-foot increments.
It would keep 4 of them together. It's not like it would
Yes.
go right through the middle.
It would preserve 4 of them.
Give you 2
yeah.
unsaleable.
Correct.
Or
And then-
undesirable.
And if you look at this parcel to the north, this office building here is constructed on a 200-foot by 400-foot lot. So there would be a similar lot remaining to the south.
And the site we're talking about, for your development, do you currently own that?
That site is currently owned by the Oaks Vernon Hills LLC, who would be our partner in this project.
You mentioned you're going to be adding 600 trees and you're preserving 150, is that what I heard?
160 trees.
How many are you removing?
I think, just for the record, 220 that are poor or in dying condition. 290 would be removed due to construction activity, and another 160 would be preserved.
And how many of those are large, old, hardwood, historical type trees?
Let me see if
Of
I
the
can go back
290
to
healthy
the
ones.
aerial image and help. Here we go. So you could see that the oak savanna that we're saving is at least as large, if not larger, than what was proposed on the original PD for the office park here. And that's in the front. That's where a lot of these old growth trees. The site opens up substantially in the back. There are trees on the perimeter. We've tried to pull all the housing in from the perimeter to be able to save those trees along the edge. There would be some trees removed in this area here in the center section of the site as a result of the construction activity in the detention pond. But by and large, the streetscape along 45 is what we're seeking to preserve. Again, we'd be able to preserve more trees if we're successful in getting the eastern access.
I think you showed a slide, or maybe it was in our packet, of the trees that you were proposing to replace, or the type of tree you're using. In that, I didn't notice any potential old hardwoods that, trees that could develop, that would replace some of the ones that are on the site. Has there been any thought to using a different, any of the old, those slower growing species?
I think we have I can just address that. We have multiple lists. There's a bigger depth packet that has a range of oaks that are being used, red oaks, swamp white oaks.
Okay.
You're seeing a little
Yeah, we didn't
subset for the
I guess
slide.
I didn't get that one.
No, it's part of a different package, I think, perhaps.
Okay, that was,
Yeah, no, we're required by your code to also fit within a certain parameter of tree types that are allowed, and also native species composition at a certain percentage of the overall.
the only reason I asked is because I didn't see
Yeah.
that, so.
You know, I can also, maybe anecdotally, the back half of the site, Warren had mentioned the back half of the site is not so open. The back half of the site is mostly pioneer species that are back in there in terms of invasives that have grown up over time, because the back half of the site was open recreation fields for the Kelly's Day Camp. And I only remember it because I was a camper there many years ago. That whole back half of the site was basically clear and open around the little pond where you fished and everything like that. So the front half of the site is really where I would call it the heritage trees are on the
Right.
site. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
John, we didn't get the traffic study results, right?
No, you did not.
So we can get that for the next meeting?
Sure. You want to speak to density on the site?
Yeah, we are within the allowable density under the R7. It's approximately 12 units to the acre with 304 units on 29 acres. By multifamily standards, it's a fairly low-density project.
And discuss what your treatment is on the roadway for Route 45.
Treatment with respect to
What,
Improvements?
if anything, are you doing as far as improving Route 45 and your?
there would be acceleration and deceleration lanes on the north side. The roadway as it is wide enough to accommodate the left turning lane through striping only. There's adequate queuing space for left turns in from the arriving traffic from the west. So again, all of this has been vetted. We've maintained consistent geometry with the previously approved business park. So I've been to IDOT a couple of times with our engineers and made sure that everything is in keeping with their wishes.
And you've planned for sufficient right-of-way for a 4-lane?
Yes, I believe that it's 130-foot right-of-way, 65 each side of center line, and that's been accommodated in this plan, so that none of our improvements would have to change with the contemplated widening.
With regards to density, it shows on one of the plans a future commercial area in the open space that is in the triangle to the west. Have you considered more units for that parcel?
We have considered more units for that. It's still a possibility. I think you might be aware there was another senior use proposed for that site a few weeks back that did not materialize. Again, that is, I'll let my future partner address that. It's a potential use. Wouldn't rule it out, but I think given the proximity to Route 45, that an alternate use that would like that type of frontage and visibility on 45 would probably be better suited than the residential. You notice that the product types that we're proposing, the townhomes are the closest to 45, and those are more than 200 feet. The 3-story elevator served building, the nearest one, is probably more than 350 feet away from Route 45. So we're really back there behind the trees. I don't think you're going to see a lot of presence of the residential on that street frontage.
But what's your preference? What's your preference for that component of the site? If you had a preference, what would it be?
Mike Rolfs with Hamilton Partners. Basically, what we're trying to do is maintain the existing use on that site that was approved by the village several years ago. We had been approached by a senior assisted living use, which I thought would have been a great use. However, they didn't do their homework, and there's too many beds in the area for their specific, which is memory care and Alzheimer's. I think that's still a good use, and I also think supplemental, what we had planned when we had this as an office and industrial site, that specific lot was looked at as a potential, retail use that could provide support services to the office and industrial. We still see that as a possibility. You could do support retail, which would service the residential community as well.
So is this, do you have a preference of all those uses, or is this one of those situations where it's what comes?
Our preference is what it's currently zoned for.
Good, okay.
Now, you just because you just introduced yourself and you said Hamilton Partners, is this the Oaks of Vernon Hills LLC? Is that owned by Hamilton Partners?
Yes, we're the primary owner of the Oaks of Vernon Hills.
Right, thank you.
The internal roadway system that's through this property, there's some notation that it's going to be built to residential standards. I don't quite understand how most of it is residential standards when it has nose-in parking on one, if not two sides of the roadway.
I believe the reference to residential standards is the Village of Vernon Hills construction code.
So the construction.
The thickness of
Okay.
the asphalt, the sub-base, the base
Okay.
materials.
But I don't know how you don't measure curb to curb then. I don't know how you measure. Would this ever be something that could be given back to the village?
Well, that's a question right now that remains unanswered, and is something that the village board has asked the question about also. The petitioner, and I'll put words in your mouth and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the petitioner has basically said, we'll do whatever the village wants. If you want it private, we'll make it private. If you want it public, we'll make it public, plain and simple. And all we're saying is we need some direction on that as to whether these streets should be public or private. And then we'll use the residential construction standards within the improvement ordinance, the development ordinance, to apply it to how this gets built.
But can these even be with the kind of parking on them?
Well, I think there are some areas with 90-degree parking that are a little bit of a challenge. So would the entire site be commercial or public? Probably not, but a portion of it, the main north-south road could be, some of the internal circulations could be, but I'm not sure that all of it could be. So, but again, that's something, we only have one spot in town that I'm aware of that has 90-degree parking, which backs out on each other. So, and that's in front of Victory Center. And that actually is a public road in there.
Oh, but that's real short.
Yeah, really short.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
If I could just add that, Kinsey actively manages hundreds of apartment units. As a developer, I think I've served on homeowners association boards for the past 25 years. I'm still serving on homeowners association boards, so I'm well aware of the issues that come up in managing these types of communities. One of which is when you have a public street and you have a maintenance-free community, Public Works come in, they plow the streets, they just plow in all the garages and driveways, and then you're back out there, shovel them out again. Our preference from a management standpoint, keep it private. We see it's a benefit to the village because the big cost is resurfacing that road sometime down the way. So even if they did make it, the village choose to make certain portions private, we'd probably say, we'll plow our own roads. We'll do it all on our own.
My experience is slightly different as a lawyer, is that is said at the beginning of a project, but when the repair or the refurbishment of the surface has to be done, suddenly the idea of public is very attractive.
In a for sale, absolutely, totally get it.
Right.
This is a purpose-built,
Okay.
single-owner project.
Right.
See that as being substantially different. It's not our intent that these things be sold off individually, but yeah, I know the argument.
On the what are we calling them, the row houses? Is that the right term?
Yes, sir.
I'm not really measuring, but it's just kind of eyeballing it. There is enough space behind each garage, behind these islands, that you can actually stack a second car?
Yes, 20 feet.
It is, okay. And then the behind that, which we didn't want to call an alley, we called a rear load area or something like that. Whatever we want to call it. When you say it's built to the residential construction standard, does that include that as well, area?
Does that include?
Those areas are also built to the
I
same
believe
residential?
so. Curb and gutter, it's got curb and gutter, it's 23 feet back to back,
Okay.
the curb, and then you've got the additional 20 feet of driveway to the face of the garage.
Okay, so it's curb and gutter on both sides?
Well, it's, using this
Well,
as an example,
right.
obviously curb and gutter
Yeah.
around the perimeter and
Okay. And then
curbs up to the buildings, right?
Okay. In looking at, and I'm typically the last person to say this, but I guess I will this time, the architecture, starting with, the clubhouse, I don't really have any comments, but with regard to the other buildings, I guess, for lack of a better word, compared to the examples that you gave in the early part of your presentation, I'm personally kind of underwhelmed. And I'm not the person that's going to tell you, well, if you added this, one element, suddenly I would, be falling out of my seat. That's for Scott to do later.
Oh, he's here.
He's here, that's right. But, and I don't know whether anybody else in the commission has any thoughts, but I'm just kind of underwhelmed by the way it looks. Scott?
Hell, is it, see, it's not always the architecture. Is it color?
It might be that, too.
Is it composition of, material? Because the architectural elements seem pretty nice. But what I'm wondering is if you're reacting to,
For instance, Scott, go back to that picture just now.
I was trying to get to the
Which one
bigger
we got?
one. Let me see here.
Here's the two.
That one or the
This one, the
row
row
house?
houses?
That,
Okay.
this looks like someone put a shack up and started building onto it several times. That's what that reminds me of. I don't like this building at all.
it actually kind of looks like something that would be in Florida or in the South.
It gives you
But-
different colors and different textures, I mean, which I personally like, because it's not it
May I-
actually looks
may-
different in here.
May I interject for a second? It's so hard to put colors up here on this display. We
See, that
did
is-
bring sample panels that I'm pointing to in the corner. So, and again, we're looking for feedback on the materials and the composition. Let me-
Well, I think something that we need to look at really is the quality of the materials. Let's look at the quality of the materials. And then the coloring is really something that's gonna be important for the marketing of these units.
When
You
I
know,
look at,
what's gonna sell.
I like the contrasting coloring there. I mean,
Oh, you like the,
the
you like
yellow
the
and the
brighter
blue
colors?
and the red and.
We don't get to see them? I thought we were moving. Oh, I thought.
Can you move them?
Oh, we don't get to see them? You want us to?
Do you want us to move them?
It's either that or we have to all move.
Everybody grab a panel.
Those are nice boards.
Like, lean them against the chairs or something?
No, you can't see.
Now we're not gonna be able, you gotta, like, against the chairs of the table. Right.
You can't see over the dice.
We're not gonna be able,
No, you can see.
that's fine, we'll stand up.
One
That's
side of the-
perfect. Can Mike see 'em? By camera?
Mike, can you put those on the camera?
For once, something is in front of me. 11 years.
Move them to the right.
Oh, there he goes.
Okay.
So Hal, are you talking about the materials themselves, or are you talking about composition?
I think it's probably a little of all. I think it's a little of all. I will, I don't want to speak poorly of another development in another community, but this reminds me specifically of another development in another community, which I don't like at all and is actually, it's fairly low end. This doesn't seem as high end as what's been described to me.
if you were to go back to, when you started this presentation, you showed 3 slides of
Right.
other developments that you had done.
Oh, what happened to mine?
Mike, you can flip back.
Hello, Mike.
Hey.
Oops,
There we go.
some of those.
Let's see here. This is the South Commons in Deerfield, and that's the 4-story condominium building that goes with it. This is Uptown in Park Ridge, and
Nice development.
I believe I think that's Uptown Park Ridge as well. And this is Heatherfield in Glenview.
So on those
That's nice.
developments, what's the structural composition on those? Is that a wood frame structure as well?
Wood frame, brick veneer, very similar, same or similar materials. And just to detail what we're proposing here, it's composite, asphalt, fiberglass asphalt, roof shingle. The shake elements are not cedar shake. We've provided 2 different alternatives here. The lower one is a composite fiber. The upper one is actually a vinyl. And there's not a big cost difference between those two. My personal preference and the aesthetic is that the vinyl does a much better job of approximating a real cedar shake. The lower one is the composite, and it's actually it's upside down. We've used both materials. My preference is the one on top because it's more authentic looking. They both stand up over time a lot better than a cedar shake. Then,
And they're installed like a cedar shake.
very much so. And you'll notice on our architecture that they're typically used on the 2nd or 3rd floor in accent locations. It's not like you're going to be up close to them. You're going to see them from a distance, and that's obviously no painting or lack of, very low maintenance materials. We also have a couple of different composite siding members. Personally, having been in the business for as long as I have, I don't want to put another stick of cedar up again if I don't have to. The knots bleed through, or you can, spend the extra money for clear. You're going to be restaining it. It's going to gray out. If you're doing true, cedar shake, great, go for it. But in a product like this, where we're trying to introduce colors and materials that are going to stand up over time, not require a lot of maintenance, and look just as good 10 years from now as they do the day you install them, these are the materials that we've selected. Obviously, brick in proximity to the ground. You've got dirt that splashes up rain. You've got other issues. Keeping brick around the perimeter is very good. And then moving to that composite siding element, we can introduce some richer colors. I'm not a big fan of the vinyl siding. I want something that's going to stand up to impact till we get to the accent features on the upper levels with the vinyl shingle. And then on the trim boards, again, that is a composite trim. Looks every bit like a cedar 1x4. It doesn't split, doesn't rot or crack. Stands up over time.
I've been seeing a lot of the type of shake siding, and it's very nice, especially when it's not overused. And it's especially nice when it's in the upper elevations of a building. And since these structures are really only 3 stories, I don't know, I think it's appropriate. I think it looks good. I think it looks good. If it was carried any further down, I'd kind of have an issue with it. But as far as the balance, maybe what you're thinking, Hal, is are you thinking that these things needed more masonry?
Maybe, for instance, looking at the ones on this example.
You like those?
I would say probably of these 3, I like the top one. And the second one has got a specific, modernistic urban feel to it. And then the next page, what is it? Heather something?
Heatherfield.
Heatherfield.
Glenview.
I would say I probably like that one. Those appear to be more masonry. This top one, it's hard to tell, but I'm guessing it's.
This is This is the South Commons in
Right.
Deerfield, and that, if memory serves me, that is a synthetic stucco
Good, okay.
and with a brick wainscot, and, gosh, I can't remember the exact materials.
That's
There's
fine.
siding on those.
Well,
There's
I'm
a cap-
glad you didn't bring the synthetic stucco.
There's vinyl in the gables, yeah, yeah. No, we avoided the synthetic stucco.
I'm glad. Now, let me ask you this, Al. You just said a real important word.
What's that?
It's more urban.
The middle one, I think, is yes.
I think they all have a little bit more of an urban character. In other words, in town. Not necessarily urban like in the city, suburban in town.
I'd agree. Sure. I'd agree
So,
with that.
so when we're looking at those, some of the detailing there, I think really works well suburban in town. And maybe these buildings are, I'm still trying to digest it all, but maybe these buildings are tucked back in a little bit, and they are more residential.
See, I agree they are tucked back more in, and it's clearly residential, because it's not an urban street that shares other functions on it, but it seems to me that almost by its very nature, a row house type project, row houses came from urban environments, that's kind of what they are.
Oh.
And maybe it's the oxymoron nature of trying to make, at least to me, something it's not. Now, by what some of you have said, is that, you know, I don't want to say you're in love with it, but certainly you like it, and beauty, I know, is in the eye of the beholder, and that's why we don't all live in the same house. Otherwise, it'd be really simple to build. You know, so I'm really looking at this more as a discussion for everyone else as to, you know, if I'm the lone wolf, so be it. You know, if I'm not, so be it. It is what it is. You know, so I don't know, you know, Jerry, you know, Mark, anybody else? Jim, since you
Well,
pushed the button.
I didn't like it. I mean, it looks to me like it was sort of thrown bits and pieces here just to make variety, and I'm not sure variety added anything to the building.
You're talking about the road.
Are you
You're
talking
talking
about
we're
the
talking about
townhouses?
we're talking about the row houses now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say if, looking at this, it looks like the ugliest building in town.
Easy.
Wow, steady.
I think the ugliest building in town is right down the street, and that's the big apartment building that looks like a prison, but. Which one's that? The one by Giuseppe's Pizza, the one above it.
The one by, right.
But when you look at the contrasting color, I think it adds color, but to Hal's point, we all look at things differently.
Right.
You know, okay, so basically, what you're reacting to is the palette.
I'm not sure if it's the combination or the multiplicity of the different, or what it is.
Because the pronunciation of the different elements is the palette, is the color.
That's true.
Because as far as the components, if they were a blended elevation similar to the 3-story apartments, it would look very similar.
Let me ask a marketing question. Your target market is 24 to 34-year-olds, right?
We see this at both ends of the spectrum.
Okay, I'm
You know,
just saying, you know, when you're targeting a demographic, would this market better to that demographic, do you think, because of the different style, the different look? Doesn't look like every other row home development is what I'm kind of asking.
Yeah. We're trying to create something that's going to provide timeless architecture.
Okay.
I mean, and we welcome your input on the color palette. You know, I've told these guys half jokingly, if my wife knew I was picking colors, you know, she'd laugh at me. We would, you know, we show these images. In practice, we're going to put up larger samples. We're going to step back, take a look. Is this the right color? Is this the right composition? Again, we welcome your input. I think that Scott's point is, you know, fenestration, the elevations, the physical features, the window openings, the detailing, the roof pitches, all those provide, you know, kind of break down the scale, provide the scale. And I think that's, you know, I'm comfortable with that. The colors and the composition of the colors, the combination, how much variation, yeah, I'm wide open to
Well, I do like the
input.
pitches and the way the windows, you know, the different settings. I do like that a lot. Maybe that's more what I'm looking at, is just.
Yeah, my personal feeling is that when you put an all-brick structure up, it does look very institutional, almost foreboding at times. I like, and I think, doing this for a lot of times, combinations of materials adds more visual interest. Varying the plane of the front elevation, the different roof pitches, the different angles, it all helps to break down the scale of the building, create a little more interest. Colors, now we get very subjective.
Colors are always emotional, So how you feel about that? I'm just saying.
I think I like the pitches, and I can't pick colors either, so.
Well, then talk about the three-story building. The three-story building is a tremendous departure. It is, for lack of a better way to describe it, so I'm going to sound hypercritical today, it's very plain. I mean, it's a very plain palette by comparison to these row houses. I also think the way that the balconies on these look, I commented to Commissioner Heidner, and I should probably not say it in public, but I will, it makes it look like we have 3 stacked cages on top of one another. And maybe you caught me on a bad night that I'm just hypercritical, but which has never happened before, right? I'm struggling with it because I'm looking at your other examples, and many of your other examples are things like I at least personally say, yeah, that looks nice, and like the one in Buffalo Grove we just went by, that looks nice, I think, and some of the ones in the other one you showed us as well. So.
And I think in reality, these buildings will look very similar to those.
Well, I agree with you very much so that what you brought here is nowhere near here. That's a substantially different look than
It's so
than
hard
these
to
colors.
render.
I understand.
Yeah, that's the problem.
No, and I understand that. I don't know, we haven't heard from the far right side of the dais? Anybody down there?
I've tried to speak a few times.
Okay.
You just didn't let me. I actually like the pitch and the elevations. I do have an issue with a lot of the colors. I think they're a little bit drab. Yeah, I don't want anything real bright and bold, but I think that when you see them, on the larger scale, it's not going to be what you're looking to achieve.
Be happy to bring in alternatives.
Build a miniature one for us, you know how they.
Say again?
A model.
Model.
As far as the palette goes overall, I think the buildings will be bright. I think it's hard to look at elevations on paper, but you have to kind of you have to learn to look at elevations on paper as well and picture them in reality. And I think that the elevations is on the 3-story buildings. I think that palette is really nice. I think it's blended well. I think it works well with the brick. I'm glad that there isn't gray much gray as part of the siding. I think the gray on the roof works with these 3 colors. I think the 3-story buildings will set into the site very nice. I mean, I really do think that color palette works. As far as the townhomes, that's where it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
As far as color goes, it's hard to do something different now. It's very hard to do something different because really nothing is ever really different now. Nothing's really new. It's just a different application of the same thing. So what this is trying to do is create a personality, some kind of personality for these townhomes. Now, it's hard to do that. Some people will like it, some people won't. The people that like it are going to want to move into these.
Well, and in reality, it's going to be set so far off of 45, nobody's going to see them unless you're driving through there anyway. I mean, you want it to be seen, you want it to be appealing, but it's you're right. So many developments look so similar. The colors are just different tones. it is hard to do something different.
If you're looking for beige, yellow,
Yeah.
beige, brown, brown,
Move to Mark's place.
you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yellow, beige,
Right.
You're right.
that's
Well-
what's going on.
Okay, put color aside for a moment and talk about the three-story building. If you can put your site plan up, please.
Sure.
The one that has, anyone, okay. What is the streetscape we're gonna see as we drive by these buildings? Are we gonna see essentially 10 double-wide garage doors?
All those are single-wide garages.
Are they single? Okay.
Yeah, they are there's single-car garages.
But, so are we gonna see
Yeah.
10 garage doors versus what you described in the northwest corner being a streetscape at the front of a building with rear loads? So have these buildings been turned in such a way that what people see and what they live in and out of are the garage doors, and they really never see the front of these buildings?
Well, the scale of the three-story buildings is substantial.
Sure.
They're 210 feet tall.
Right,
They're
sure.
45 feet high to the peak of the roof.
They're 210
Two-
feet.
200 feet,
Oh,
200 feet
okay.
wide.
Yeah.
210 feet wide. So did I
Otherwise
say
they're
tall?
20
No.
stories.
Yeah, yeah, these are big buildings.
Right.
No, 210 feet wide, 65, 68 feet deep. So they are, they're a substantial
Yes.
scale, and I don't think those garage doors are going to dominate that. You notice that we have tried to pull the garage and the drives off of the main road here with these little triangle landscape pods, with the exception of back here and on this. But on the main drag, yeah, we've angled these things so you're not looking as you drive in. You're not seeing the garage doors face you right away. We're trying to create this nice curve here, bringing you into the clubhouse and leasing area. When you drive in, your initial sight line is going to be across the open space.
Okay, what color are those doors?
Say again, please?
What color are the doors?
Ooh,
Yeah.
something unobtrusive. I don't know that we've locked in a color right now. I could go back to they're a little bit lighter, but again, we're very flexible on the colors.
Hey, Hal, when you were talking about what these were going to appear like from the road, which road were you talking about?
The interior roadways.
The road that goes north-south?
No, all the interior roadways. Because if we've learned anything in suburban construction like we have in a town like Vernon Hills, is that we live out of the easiest access point to our house. And regrettably, for most of our homes, the easiest access point is the garage with the clicker that opens the door. So we have these huge garage doors that face most of our streets, and then we walk to the back of the house, we live through the back, and no one uses the front rooms. Here, my fear is that what people would see when they go through this community, even the community members and guests, is they would see basically lines of garage doors. And as Mr. Kalmer pointed out to me, and I think he's probably right, is that something very careful is going to have to be done, and I don't know what it is, with these garage doors. Otherwise, it is going to look like we're opening, I don't know, an automotive service center with 10 bays in every building, and that's certainly, I know, what you don't want. So, I would be concerned there too, because looking at driving up 45, no, you won't see most of this, especially if there's any foliage. Driving down the north-south access road, you'll only see certain buildings. Most you won't see either. And your neighbors that are kind of around you, that three sides you, those are industrial buildings that probably don't have a lot of windows that face you anyways, so they're not worried about their views either, really. So I guess I'm more concerned about people that are in the community, driving around the community, and the way they're going to enter and access primarily through these areas, or through the parking areas, which are also pretty much on the site plan, with garages on the other side of the streets a lot of times. Now, I don't know how to really address that. I do think the idea of indoor parking in an apartment it's a very intriguing and it's an interesting idea, and certainly is a good selling point for it, especially with the weather we purportedly have during the winter here. But I'm also concerned with what it's going to look like. Is it the passerby? No, it really isn't. This is not a main street in downtown Park Ridge, or in the one you showed. It's not that building, and I understand that. But there are people that are going to live here in a substantial number, hopefully.
Well, I'm going to submit something for thought. we've got two different approaches to driving by and accessing these buildings on this site. We've got one approach with the townhouses where there's the rear drive and the front drive.
Right.
And then you've got the other approach where the access point really is the front of the building, which is where the garage is,
Right.
okay? Let's say that the planning on this approached this all in a very similar fashion. In other words, that there were rear drives and front drives to the apartments as well as to the townhouses.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the result?
Well, you'd have more drives, number one.
More asphalt.
More asphalt, sure. You'd have
And-
alleys.
And more
basically.
places where vehicles would be in less open space, green space.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, because the purpose of this type of gathering here is really to offer options or thoughts that could help resolve what we're conflicted about.
Right. And I think we have to remember also that this is a rental community,
Right.
and I'm not so sure how long the average length of lease is. So I would imagine that it's gonna be somewhat of a transient community, and a lot of the people that are gonna move in here are maybe only gonna stay 6 months, maybe a year, maybe, I don't know, maybe not even that long, I'm guessing. So for them, it's more of a function of space, of usable space for them. You have a lot of one-bedroom units in here, so people are just gonna come in there. It's more about coming home, laying down, opening the fridge, getting up the next day and driving out the door again. So I think, that's why I respect what Hal's looking at.
Fancy auto parts.
I don't see it as the same way as permanent living space, whereas someone who's gonna be there looking at this, looking out their window for the next 10 to 12 years or something like that.
While your assessment of the market is right on, we've taken the approach that we want to look at every unit, every solar orientation, every view shed, and design units that address that. So if you dig deeper into these plans, you'll see that where the bedrooms are located was given careful consideration. The smaller units, the smallest of our one-bedrooms are on the front of the building. The larger one-bedroom units are on the back that enjoy better views. There will be a corresponding price difference. The largest two bedrooms are on the rear corners. They enjoy the views of the open space, the views of the pond. So there's been a lot of consideration given to the mix and the specific location within the building of that individual unit type, and then trying to create the spectrum of offering. We don't want to have any units that somebody just looks and says, well, I don't want to live there, or why are the lights shining in my window, or something of that nature. Now, granted, we've got people living on both sides of these three-story buildings. So we've tried to address and consider how each unit lives, not just functionally within the unit, but visually living outside the unit as you're looking out the windows.
Just curious, do you have an idea of the range of rent?
Yes. Expect in the low end, the smallest one bedroom to be $1,275, $1,300 per month. On the high end, in the three-story building, it's probably up in the $1,800 for the larger two bedroom. Then in the individual townhome units, row home units, it'd be $2,300 to $2,500. Again, it's going to be market, function of the market.
And the three-bedroom one would be obviously
At the high end,
yeah.
$2,500 a month.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Hal, I don't want to let that conversation all go away yet.
Okay.
Because, we're looking at these areas right here and these areas right here.
Yes.
Where there's the main drive here, there's a main drive.
Right.
And then this has kind of got some access from the street you're worried about right in here.
No, also up the drive. To the right, the one that goes to the northeast.
This one? Up here?
And the diagonal too.
This one?
Yeah, that too.
Oh, for these units?
Right.
Well,
But that's the thing, you're never going to your front door, so to speak, of the building. Oh, you're right. That's the point, right.
well, the whole thing, here
Oh,
is
right,
also.
sure, yeah.
The point may very well be, who is this for? The people driving by or the people living in the units? And the people living in the units are gonna go into their unit and they're gonna have a decent view out to the back in every one of these pieces.
There is a door in front. Oh, yeah. Right in the center entry, and, you know, if,
Yeah,
On
The front side of the building?
the part that doesn't have the garages is what I meant.
there are two access,
that's what I
there are two
just-
access,
yeah.
each of the stairwells, and we do anticipate that those will be actively used, because there's parking in proximity to those entrances. People are gonna access the open space from the rear of the buildings.
This must be the- that must be the-
have we talked about planning on any of these units?
Unit plans?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah,
We haven't yet, no.
have we?
Haven't, but I'm happy to.
Because I missed part of this.
No, we didn't, we did not.
I don't want to recover something.
No, we did not talk about it.
Okay, Hal, anybody else? Has anybody ever seen a unit with, a apartment unit with a garage and a hallway to their unit so that they can come from their apartment to their garage space before? Have you seen one? I haven't seen one.
I never have.
You walk in the garage, you go in the garage, walk into a hallway before you get into your unit?
But specifically, that's your garage stall, and that you're not amongst multiple,
Yeah, your garage is by itself.
yeah,
You walk into a hallway.
yeah.
Where the other people can walk from their individual garage into the hallway.
Have
and
you been a
then-
part of that?
Yeah.
Really? I haven't seen that too many
No.
places. I think that's a very unique element here. I think that's a nice planning element.
Rob Roy has all
What, these will have garage door openers, I'm assuming?
Oh, yes.
So, when you open the garages, and I live in a townhouse development in Vernon Hills, the units on the second floor are gonna feel the vibration.
Side-mounted garage door openers.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, how about that? I never knew they made those.
Yeah.
Do you foresee some, I don't want to say animosity or maybe hurt your sales a little because you can't get garages? People, because they won't have enough garages
You know,
available for your
it's a-
units?
It's a price function. Some people are more price sensitive than others,
Okay.
and they're going to look to get in and minimize their monthly expense. Others are going to say, I want a garage, I need it. And for those who need two, they're going to go for the townhouse.
Okay.
And those rental numbers you gave us before excludes the garage?
Exclude the garage. Garage stalls anticipate be $130 a month for a garage stall.
Can you address waste collection and recycling in each of the building types?
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. We've designed the three-story elevator-served building with a series of rollout containers that would be accessed through carry your garbage, bag it. Every kitchen will have a double drawer, one for recycling, one for garbage. We don't have a trash chute. We don't want the maintenance, we don't want the noise, and if you put a trash chute, people dump their recycling down the trash chute. So, two double drawer, two bags, carry it down on your way out, and you deposit it in the trash room. That trash room is large enough to accommodate a half a dozen or so of the rollout bins. It'll be serviced probably 3 times a week. We don't want garbage sitting in there for a long period of time. We want it out of there, and it'll be collected either by the on-site staff or by the refuse facility. You see that we have a door leading directly outside. In the, let me go back to the row home pods. The row homes, again, having served and managed for sale communities in the townhome, where everybody has their own garbage cans, it's a nightmare. It's a chronic management issue. We intend to address that by having a common dumpster in this, in the northwest corner, or northwest pod. It's going to be here, where I'm moving the mouse, and that in the corner. So everybody's going to bag their own garbage. They're going to take it out, put it in the dumpster. We're not going to be chasing newspapers blowing down the street or having people leaving their garbage cans out for days at a time. We don't want that. We want it bagged and deposited in a dumpster.
Will the units have the option of trash compactors?
It's a rental community. Our expectation is double,
I just wondered.
yeah, double drawer in every kitchen,
Okay.
one for recycling, one for garbage.
Have you ever done that? What you just described?
Oh, sure. In terms of the dumpsters, a central location for the dumpster?
For this
Yeah.
kind, it seems.
Absolutely.
This seems incredibly, like, if, looking at the northwest corner that's up, if you're in the, let's say that northeast building, that's
You-
quite a walk in the
Well,
winter or in the rain.
You're taking it out, you're taking it out when you leave. Remember, a lot of these people are, they're commuting, they're in their cars every day. You're taking it out, it's bagged, you're taking it around, dropping it off, and you're on your way.
I thought the same.
I'm not taking garbage in my car, I'll tell you, I don't know about anybody else.
Well, but it's a rental, I thought the same thing, but I think it's a rental community and you have different expectations. You're right. I pointed that
I
out.
think you have lesser expectations.
Oh, I've lived in apartments and you have to carry your garbage to a dumpster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recycling?
Recycling will be provided in both instances. Again, the double drawer in the kitchen, so that we provide people a place to put their recyclables till they're ready to carry them out. And then there'll be separate bins, and obviously we'd accommodate that in the refuse collection.
So are people going to be putting larger garbage cans with wheels in their garages so that they don't have to go out to the dumpsters?
As long as they wheel it to the dumpster and dump it in the dumpster, that's
matter.
okay. What we don't want to see is those wheeled garbage cans outside, day in and day out, and having that chronic problem. I know it from my experience in for sale communities that it's an issue. We'd rather leave that streetscape clean.
Can you address in Pod B the parking ratio? That's this area right up in here, as it compares to the other parking ratios.
Because I don't have the data with me, may I come back on the 19th and address that specifically? We have done the analysis and made sure that there are parking spaces in proximity to each unit, but I will be more than happy to come back and address that. Obviously, we're trying to find a balance. There's oodles of parking for the townhomes, we know that. We've tried to find the balance of green space and parking spots for every unit within proximity to that specific building.
Okay.
So you're talking about this the north half, the 5 units?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments? Anything you'd like to add?
We're glad to be here.
Okay, so we'll start-
Appreciate your input.
Any direction with regards to the color on the row homes at this point?
Come back and wow us.
Okay.
Make it work.
Happy to do so.
I do have a comment on that. I have a comment with regards to the clubhouse. Where is that?
Is it in here? Someplace?
I can't look at it on this. Oh,
It's in our packet somewhere. Numbers?
okay.
No numbers.
My question to
Here
the
it is.
commission is, okay, the same colors are on that clubhouse as are on the units. No, they're just in different quantities.
There's more brick.
Yeah, there's more brick, and it's lower, and there's a lot more roof, too, it seems like. Why does that elevation work so well? I mean, that elevation's,
It works better.
It works better.
yeah, that elevation's awesome.
I think it works better because there's a splash of color. And, I mean, it is primarily the brick. And I just think, I think the three-story building is just too overwhelming with the colors.
Oh, so you're talking about the three-story building. I guess I was talking about the townhouse.
The row
Okay,
houses.
Or the row houses.
They are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The row house.
But
It's
that-
just too overwhelming with the color,
Okay.
the row home.
So there's too many colors.
But when you look
And the
at that,
quantity of the color.
you know,
They're changing too often.
but when you look at that clubhouse, it looks like every other building in Vernon Hills. It looks like the Vernon Hills Bank.
But that clubhouse, that elevation is.
Well, no, you're talking about the elevation versus the color.
But it seems to work in the
I mean,
application.
I hear what you're saying about the elevation, just like we like the angles and the setbacks and everything on the row homes. It's more the color, right, and brick that we were
So
talking about.
the splash of color.
That's, I mean, that's what I like about,
So maybe too many different colors on the row houses.
I'm the only one that likes them, so.
Well, I happen to like them too.
Well, then there's two of us, so.
But I'm trying to, gather some direction.
The problem with, there's a splash of color because there's one cream-colored peak. The rest of it is gray and brick.
Blue.
no, you
Well,
have, you have blue
whatever,
in there, you
Give or
have
take.
I mean,
a
it's
couple
just,
shades of gray, actually.
well, we go back to, let's have shades of beige then, like my house, as you put up.
Mm-hmm. You have the deep and then,
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know if that gave you any direction at all.
We'll come back with a couple other palettes, and I think I understand the comment that it's busy.
I think the elevations of the color palettes for the 3 stories, those are awesome.
Thank you,
The coloring is really, really nice on those.
thank you.
They look like jails.
What? Hey, what are you? Boy, Hal's exercising himself tonight.
I didn't say it was a jail. I said cages.
He's exercising himself.
That was
Mark.
another building.
That was Mark. That was Mark. That
wasn't
wasn't
our
me.
building.
I don't know what
That was
that
another building.
That was Mark.
Yeah.
The penitentiary? Right? That was,
Do you guys feel you got what you needed
Yeah.
for this evening?
Yeah. Look, there's differences of opinion on the color within our team, so this is no surprise.
okay.
Okay.
All right. You want to, what the schedule is?
They'll be back before you for a public hearing on December 19th. So you'll have more information and more packet stuff, and I'll make sure that we get a summary of the traffic study for everybody so that you'll have that in your packet. They'll have additional members of their team at that meeting. Traffic engineer, I'm sure, and their civil will be here also.
Traffic engineer, another rep from BSB. Did you want us to go into any more detail on the construction? There's that,
Mm-mm.
okay,
No,
that's
we're,
fine.
Is there a four-sided of this one?
yeah, do you have a 4-side elevation of the clubhouse?
Clubhouse?
If we don't, we will.
Okay,
Going to-
okay.
And if they could have a specific list of the variations being
Yeah.
sought.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
will.
You described some of them, but a little bit better.
Yeah,
if you-
that's
if you
in the
had shown us
technical.
where they
in
were,
the-
too.
Yeah, in the technical review package, they're detailed.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
thank
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, we will post this meeting on our website and link it to the sets of plans that we have there, so you'll have an opportunity to re-review or what's going on here tonight, as will the public. So just part of providing more information to the community.
Okay. Do we have anything we need to discuss?
No.
No. Okay, so we have 2 minutes. First are the minutes of September 19th. Is that the one you have the comments on, Jim?
Yes, September 19th on page 5. Oops. The walls are falling. Page 5, the first vote, it says 4 ayes, 1 nays, and then it summarizes it saying 5-0.
To the top of the page.
So we can't do our math, so, okay.
That's overrated.
And then the next one, since there were 5 votes on that issue, there's only 4 votes on the issue number 3. So somebody, and it appears
gotta be
the
me.
chairman's vote is missing.
That's not meaningful.
That's correct. He did not vote on that one.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
You didn't vote?
I didn't vote on that one?
Nope. Because again, we needed 4 votes.
Oh, that's right, okay. You're right, okay. Okay, otherwise, they're okay?
Yeah, those
Okay.
are the only changes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes of September 19th, 2012 with the correction that was noted. We need a second,
I'll second.
and we can do this by roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Abstain?
Okay, then I'll vote aye too.
We weren't here.
That was our number.
Thank you. You do realize that you do not have to abstain because you were in at the meeting,
I can't approve them, though. I don't want to say no.
but you don't have to
You don't
abstain.
have to.
No. What do I do if I don't say no or yes?
Say nothing.
You abstain.
You just did it.
I'm just,
Okay.
Moving right along.
Okay, secondly, we have the minutes of October 3rd, 2012. Any comments on those? Okay, so we have a motion to approve those. We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll do that by acclamation. Do you going to abstain first?
I was here for that one.
Okay. Jerry's going to abstain. Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, those are passed. And I guess, other than the adjournment, we have nothing else. So we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, you don't have to abstain on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Good night.
Great, thank you.
So instead of abstain, you could say present.